Hi, I'm Matt from Soul Shifter. Welcome back to my channel. So tell me something, guys. Have you heard of an idea called soul contracts? This is something I heard about. I've known about it for a long time because it's been around for years and years and years. But I've never really given it much thought. And a little while ago, I was on YouTube, as you well know. I live and die on YouTube and TikTok. And I don't know how it came up, but I stumbled across this channel. I can't even remember what it was called. And it was kind of all about esoteric stuff and all about sort of like, you know, like life after death and, you know, the whole Raymond Moody stuff and all that sort of thing. And one of the things I found really interesting was they had this little video. It was like a 5-minute, you know, when they draw the cartoons and they say, well, this goes there and that, you know, those little cartoon things. It's sort of like soul contracts in 5 minutes, that sort of thing. And I was quite fascinated by this because it's the whole idea of when our souls, if you believe we have a soul, when we die, our soul goes back to, and I make this I'm going to make this very easy to think about. Okay, we're going to think about heaven. Okay, so when you die, your soul goes up to heaven, and in heaven, all the souls we meet. So there's my soul, my mother's soul, my dad's soul, my brother's soul, everybody who's died. Okay, all the souls that have moved on. We all meet as a bunch of souls. Don't forget your soul. As within this idea of soul contracts, your soul is a separate thing from your body and your spirit and all that sort of thing. So your soul goes up, we all go to heaven, okay? And it is there that we decide, when I say we, I mean our soul, not us, our soul, decides how they want to come back and reintegrate again and mix again. Now there's this whole theory of souls incarnate or reincarnate in groups, in families. So my mom passed away, let's say I passed away and my dad died. We could come back, our souls could come back in a different order. The soul that was me could come back as my mother. So that each soul gets kind of a taste of what it's like to be in a different situation. Does this sound this doesn't sound very complicated to me. But hold on, let me get to the root of the video. Okay, so the root of the video is this. The souls choose what they want to do and be on the earthly plane. Okay, so my soul, I'm dead, my soul's up there in heaven. My soul says to Mrs. Jones's soul, who was my next door neighbor, okay, I'm going to, when you are a teenager, I'm going to steal your bicycle, because that will then lead to X happening, and then that X happening will lead to you meeting your future husband, and you have to meet him because otherwise you're not going to have those children who will then go on to win the Nobel Prize. Does that make sense? Look at your own life, trace it back. I've done a video on that before. So, okay, so Mrs. Jones's soul and my soul, we agree on this, and we incarnate, and when Mrs. Jones is 10, 16 years old or 15 years old, me, directed by my soul, does that interaction to start that chain reaction. Okay, so the souls, these two souls, have already decided, they've made a contract with one another that this is what how they're going to interact to create a chain reaction to eventually reach a situation where those other people win the Nobel Prize. Wow, sounds really complicated, but wait, it gets worse. It gets even more complicated. Because, as this woman in the video was saying, it's a fantastic idea. Don't you think it's a great idea that your soul can actually say, you get, and it doesn't only have to be between two souls, it can be a group of souls. Souls form a contract, a soul contract, to interact with each other in such a way that it creates chain reactions in their lives, their new incarnations, so that things can happen. So that, because don't forget, every single person that you come into contact with, you have an influence on their life and they have an influence on your life. And so it goes. It's kind of a completely continuous, never-ending cycle, all right? And that is what a soul contract is. So you make contracts with other souls, you all play together, and you all do what the contract says at whatever specific time it says you're supposed to do it, and that creates this chain reaction. Spread, 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 spread. Okay. I think it's a fantastic idea, but it also has a very, very dark side to it. Okay, because if And this is where, if you are a sensitive person, please switch off and move on, because this is the controversial part of this video, okay? And because of this, what I'm going to talk about, I hope I'm not taken off air, all right? You have a soul contract with somebody. They have to learn something. They have to learn how to get over emotional baggage, or they have to, the soul has to learn how to get over something traumatic. That's what they have to learn during this incarnation. So you contract with that soul to break into her house, attack her, and half kill her, or worse. And through that act that you have both agreed upon as souls, and you've come into a contract, by that act, that vicious, violent, vile act, she will then grow as a person. She will need that to become someone, to influence someone to do something. Can you see again that vile act is contracted between those two souls so that this soul can learn something and start a chain reaction down the road, okay? And this soul that's actually contracted to be the perpetrator, that action has consequences on his soul as well, on his life, on his incarnation, which starts a chain reaction. Okay, this is sounding really complicated, but if you really sit down and think about this, it's not that complicated. It does create complications though. Because yes, it'd be fantastic if we all incarnate, souls all get together and laugh and say, this time you're going to be my mother and I will show you how, how bad it is and blah, blah, and then your father says, well, then I want to be you. I want to experience what it is to go to the clubs and whatever, okay? So this is what, I mean, I'm being silly here and I'm generalizing, but wouldn't that be awesome if our souls could like choose where we want to go and how we want to reincarnate and that sort of thing? It puts the whole kibosh of karma out the way, because basically your souls are just deciding amongst themselves, but it has that darker element to it where people will start saying, okay, but then what about rape? Do two souls come together and contract that? Or is a soul contract only about something positive? Is a soul contract between a mother soul and a child soul, or soul number one is going to be the mother, soul number two is going to be the extremely autistic, sort of top of the range autistic child, so that the mother's going to experience something that she will have, her soul needs to experience. Is that a soul contract? Because that's a sad one. You're contracted to be this Down syndrome child or whatever. So it does become quite a deep subject. Don't you think it's a subject that really gets you thinking? And as I say, I'd heard about this years ago, and it's always been there. Some of the sort of esoteric texts that I've read about, or life after death kind of texts I've read about, have mentioned this, but I've never ever experienced, gone into it fully and tried to kind of wrap my head around it until I saw this video of this lady's, and it really has got me thinking, especially when she switches from the happy, the good part of what it could be, to the more sort of sinister, and I wouldn't say sinister, but the darker idea of a soul contract. So if you're interested in soul contracts, go and check out a couple of the videos, or go and maybe, there are loads of online books, free to use books. You can go to your whatever site you use to download ebooks or whatever. Loads of free stuff out there. Go and have a look at it if you are interested, and let me know down below what you think of this phenomenon, what you think of this like thing, this idea of soul contracts. Okay. While you're down there, go and have a look at my links to my Instagram, and have a look at my inks to my inks. Go have a look at my inks to my English tutoring as well. That's down there. And yeah, you know who I am. I am Matt from Soul Shifter, and I will see you on the other side.